Hi, good afternoon team. Today we're going to have a look at a concept called Amazon DynamoDB. So in the previous lectures we studied about the databases, relational, non-relational, semi-relational, semi-relational data, relational, non-relational, semi-relational. In that the difference is already mentioned in the previous lecture. So this is a non-relational database. It is a key value and document database. This is a very important part of it, and it does the scaling at a very high. It is at a very high performance. In a very low time, it can do the scaling. So I will show it step by step from the left side. Alarms. So I will do it like from the top to the bottom. So the top one is the dashboard alarms. For example, if the database is running, of course, I'm going to show you how to create one and run one. So if we have an alarm, for example, we are having a high utilization in a particular database, and for example, 70% of the data, the CPU is being utilized, we can create horizontal scaling. We can create another one. So it supports auto scaling as well. DAX clusters, I will mention that as well later on this lecture. DAX clusters is to store the cache of this image. If we don't want to go to the original replica or the original database, we can go to the caches. Actually, let me show you. Highly available in-memory caching service for DynamoDB. DAX cluster so it can be available in one or more nodes. So lots of caches. Of course, caches will give you quick service as compared to the actual database. So we don't have to go to the database itself. That will save us a lot of traffic across the original database. So we can use the DAX clusters, and it has a primary node and it can be multiple nodes. Depends upon we are creating one table or the replica of the database. This is actual table in which okay, let me do this. So I will create a table. Let me so student. Okay. So I need to input the data. So okay, I will choose a number. I will enter say roll number. Sort key is the one which can be used in additional to the partition key. So more than one primary key. It is, for example, if we don't want to use the primary key to the second part of it. And yeah, default settings. By default, we have an infrequent access class as well. By default, the class chosen will be the DynamoDB standard ones. Read capacity unit. It's the average of how many do we read. Read capacity units are of three kinds. Actually, let me show you over here in the customized settings. By default, this was the class recommended. This is the infrequent access. Like we did, if we don't access it pretty frequently, we can use this one. So, for example, we create a table. It can go to up to 400 kbs, and if but when we read from it, it's not the whole 400 kbs. We need to read the particular part of it. But as we increase the size of this item, what is item? If we create a table, for example, student table, which we're going to create, now it will be having different factors. For example, the name of the student, the age of the students. So this is only one item. Under that, the name of the students can be multiple. The age, of course, it's multiple. So this is the read item, eventually consistent. So this is the size of the item. This will be a huge cable. If we go more than 400 kbs, it's very much possible that we cannot put that into like the table. Actually, we have to put the URL of that. For example, we cannot upload an image into the table. We can put the URL of the image, can be from Facebook or from some other website. If I increase the item size, this is the estimate cost I'm getting. And if I try to read it at a high speed, it is going miles, uh, yeah, almost a cost of one which you can purchase. Eventually consistent. Eventually consistent is, for example, whatever information the database has, we want to read it right away. We don't care whether it's updated or not. When it comes to strongly consistent, it changes to read capacity units 1000 because it uses more of it. That will take some time to give you the result, but that will be give you the most up-to-date data in your database. Coming to transactional, that will take twice as much as the strongly consistent one. But this is to perform on complex data. So we can change the, of course, I'm not going to apply this. I'm just going to show you how it all works. Capacity mode, either we can do all demand, depends on if it's a light application. If it's on a production, mostly it's a provision which is choose. Auto scaling I already mentioned. If okay, let me do this. 70% is we did the CloudWatch already. So if I can set it to 60%, 50%, the minimum capacity units when it reaches to that and the utilization goes to 70% or more, it will create another one. Write capacity, same concept. Secondary indexes. So besides the primary key, if we need to perform any query on the parts or attributes that are not the part of the primary key, the roll number is the primary key. 1, 2, 3 roll number. Anything besides that, we can use secondary indexes. The information on that is here. You can read it on the site. Amazon made it pretty easy. And read write capacity cost, we already show that how much it is. This is by default which they provide. Encryption at rest, we can use, this is the one which they manage. Remember, we cannot delete this one once it's created. Owned by Amazon DynamoDB, this is what is by default. Customers, if we want to be super safe and we want to manage it by ourselves, we can use the third option. So it supports encryption as well. Deletion protection, we already studied this feature if we don't want anybody to delete it. And if we create a table, it will be stored in the form of JSON and we can change it over here. So for example, like every time in production network, we are not going to create a table. We have to import it. That can be in JSON language or a normal language. Now, I'm not going to create a table. I'm going to cancel it because I have to explain the rest of it. Exploring the items. Okay, I have to create one, otherwise all these options will be okay. Okay, students. Roll number. I will leave everything to default to avoid any unnecessary charges. So we studied the read unit capacity, write capacity, read capacity unit. Write capacity units for one, it will only write 1 kilobytes per second. Read capacity units for eventually consistent, it will write 8 kilobytes per second. For strongly consistent, 4 kilobytes per second. For transactional, half of that. Okay, let me create this one. So it's off. Let me see. So we can export the made table to S3. Also, like I mentioned, we can import the tables as well. We can do that from S3 as well. Integration, it can be integrated to Redshift or some other Amazon features. CloudWatch, yeah. We can integrate lots of Amazon services which they already provide. Reserve capacity, okay. If we so this is if we purchase a reserve capacity, it will be able to, okay, if we want to exceed it, this is something which will not be given by default, but we can exceed it. We have to speak to Amazon regarding that. Okay, so the table is created. 5 read capacity units, right? And right now there is no data, that's why it's showing 0 bytes. Let me just go to that and creating an items. Mm, resource policy, point in time recovery. There are no alarms as there is no data. Okay. So, oh, it is for scanning and query. Let's go back. I have to create an item. If we click on the table, we have to looking for an option to create the item over here. explore table items, create item. They made it a bit different. So roll number, I'm just saving it as 1. Okay, now this is the primary key. I have to enter a different part of it. So roll number, okay, age of the student, 31. Now, okay, so number alphabet, okay, that's a string. City, we'll say Delhi. This is a small table, so I will just save that table on my side. I didn't even give the name of the student. So that means in relational database, we can store tables which have the same attributes. Over here, I will create, okay, roll number, it will stay the same, of course, because we need a primary key, of course. Without that, there is no concept of table. Let's say, okay, phone number. It was not in the previous one. 1122334455. Another one which I didn't mention, country. Okay, India. So we have a table created and it is pretty flexible. I can make the third table include city and country. I can make fourth table including age and city. It will, and if there is any fifth one, it will be if it is so flexible, it will be able to take that into this table as well. And then we can scan and query. For example, if I want to see the age or the country who belongs to India, he will be able to see that from here by querying the data. Let me just show you over here. Okay, for example, I need the number 2. We have a table of more than millions of lines. I'm running this, it will give me only one line. Okay, this roll number is belonging to this country and have this phone number. In relational, they all have to be the same ones. Different ones are not possible. So yeah, I have covered all these. We can take backups of the table as well if we want it. But over here, and integration with the CloudWatch, I can create alarms if I want. So right now, yeah, this is what I'm left with. No active alarms, so indexes. I didn't consider configure any secondary index because it's a small table, and no alarms. CloudWatch. Global tables is the one when you have read replicas into the other parts of the world as well. Backups, if you want to take backup of your production, you can turn it on and you can recover it from there. Exports is when you're making so you need streams to be uh, powered on so that you can export it to S3. That's a different concept of Amazon Kansas data stream. Um, so we will cover that into some different lectures. But and the last one, permissions. Okay, yeah, these are all default which I chosen. So I'm not making a big table, otherwise that could have created more tables if I increased the number of parameters over here. So yeah, this is the basic explanation of how it looks like, how the interface looks like, and what is the how we can create a table and how we can search for something in that particular table. If you have any questions on this, guys, please let me know.